What's up, everyone, and welcome to That Game Rules, yet another retro podcast where every week we break down an old retro game and all the pop culture that surrounds it. I'm your host, Scuba Steve. Thanks for listening this week. Today we're talking about a sweet banger of a game, finally talking some Link, talking some Zelda. Today we're talking The Legend of Zelda, the Minish cap for the Game Boy Advance. Just picture the gameplay of Link to the Past. Mix in the artwork of Wind Waker, throw in like the music and sound of Ocarina of Time, and then just sprinkle a little bit of general feeling of Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, and you've got yourself the Minish cap. So break out your ocarinas, let's freaking go. If you're new to the show, every week we go back in time and just talk old movies, shows, toys, throw in some commercials, whatever I can think of. Then eventually, I swear, we'll get into the game and we'll talk the vitals, the characters. We're going to talk dungeons, items, a whole bunch of other stuff. We're going to check out some comments and reviews and see if I can keep the thoughts straight today, because talking Zelda, I'm going to be all over the place. Finally, we'll give this game some awards, slap a ranking on it, call it a day. Do you want to tell me your opinion on The Legend of Zelda? Shoot me an email at thatgamerules@gmail.com. And the usual, hit up the website, thatgamerules.com. Mainly just send me emails, send me messages. I just want to hear what you guys have to say about video games. I don't care about the website. I don't care about Patreon. Let's just talk nerdy stuff, and I'll have a good time. If you are liking what you're hearing at all, I'm not sure why you would, but if you're feeling generous, you can pause the show, give me some sort of rating or comments on whatever podcast player you're listening to. I'd appreciate it. If you have some complaints, just go ahead and email me those, and let's hash it out together. But yeah, please, if you want to give me a good rating, here, I'll pause it. I even have some good pause music for you. So go ahead and rate me. Are you back? I appreciate it. Or if you just liked that music, if you don't know where that's from, just let it rumble around in your brain a little bit. See if that'll awaken some of those old N64 demons you got hiding in your closet. Before we get in the game and some time warp stuff, what have I been up to? I am back from vacation with the wife and the kids on the tail end there. We had a good time. We just me and the wife, we just do like a road trip thing, just around Michigan into the Upper Peninsula. If you're not from the area, it is real nice. Nice coasts along all the lakes in Michigan. And then the UP is real pretty and mainly just empty of people. And I enjoy that a lot. Like pictured rocks. There's a lot of we do like hiking, putt. We're just dorks. So there's no big partying when it comes to us. We're in bed by 9 or something. But also, so on the tail end of that, we swooped the kids up on our way back home and then drove on to Ohio and hit up Cedar Point for the day. It was super hot. It was super busy. It was the first time my adult children had ever been to Cedar Point. So I guess that's my bad. I've never been a huge coaster head, but I was digging it this past weekend. So Siren's Curse is a new coaster that opened. Rode that twice. Top Thrill 2 was running. I rode that. And, a couple other things. If you're a coaster head, you might know some of these coasters. My kid's kind of real big into it, busting out coaster stats and stuff as we're there. But he got to ride everything he wanted, and my wife and my youngest daughter got to just kind of hang out and eat some food, because they do not enjoy any of those rides except Iron Dragon. Iron Dragon's still baller. So let's talk some gaming memories of Minish Cap. Specifically for me, this will be a different kind of episode. Not a lot of nostalgia with this game. A lot of nostalgia for Zelda. But as far as Minish Cap, the first time I played this was maybe 2 or 3 years ago, whenever they released it on Nintendo's online service. I've played it 2 or 3 more times since then. Just because when these games were coming out on Game Boy Advance, I was a young father of 2 by then, and I did not get into the Game Boy Advance library at the time, but it's so sweet to come play all these games now. It was just like another Super Nintendo. There's all these games I never played. What is another one? Wario Land 4. That was another one I played recently. Man, the GBA was rocking, and I was just raising kids and working and paying bills like a jackass, mowing lawns. Kids were chewing on my GameCube controllers, cords. I had to yell at them, wind those cords up. But if you want to talk, specifically when it comes to Zelda and being young, I have a weird theory that everyone's kind of favorite Zelda game is whatever game you played when you were in the age of like 10 to 13. So my personal favorite game is pretty much on any given day is going to be Link to the Past. That was just a big game. It hits you at the right age. It's like your first kind of RPG. You're the hero. You're the adventurer. When it came to I remember Zelda and Zelda 2 for the NES. I remember playing those, and I'm like 6 or 7, not getting far, not, understanding concepts so much then. I remember a lot watching my stepdad play them and thinking how difficult they are and how I would never be able to do that. And I remember even just like the Zelda 1 dungeons, because back then, if you got an imagination and you're a 6-year-old, like those things freaked me out. The music still kind of hit some sort of weird button in my brain, like a weird little fear, just from the sounds, the noise, even though that's the weird like grunt noise or whatever when you start to get close to the boss in like the original Zelda dungeons, still just kind of freak me out. So it didn't really click as far as connecting with the game till I was, probably in the 10-year-old range when I played Link to the Past and just could not put that thing down. So that also kind of goes to like a lot of, if I meet like a 20-year-old or a 30-year-old and they're telling me their favorite game is, like Wind Waker or of course like Ocarina. I just think it's neat. There's so many kind of niche Zelda games they throw in the mix there. Because they tend to successfully just throw kind of weird mechanics in these games. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. There's mechanics in Minish Cap here that have come and gone and they never used again. Kinstones, I believe. But we'll get into a time warp. We'll breeze through it because I've got so much Zelda talk. This might be like the longest episode, and it's just going to be rambling Zelda and Link love. So it's also my first tattoo is the Master Sword going through the Triforce. I got that in my first tattoo was like 3-4 years ago or something. So if you're curious, my other tattoo is Lisa Simpson. So yeah, I'm a weirdo. But let's go ahead and get into this time warp, and we'll see what's happening back in 04 and 05. Let's do it.
Have enough road to get up to 88.
Roads? Where we're going, we don't need roads.
All right, so we're talking 2004, 2005. Came out in North America January 10th of 05. So I'm pulling stuff from kind of both years there. But luckily, when we're talking way back in the early aughts, as it was, today's sponsor is the glorious Nokia 5100. That was a cellular phone, children. It's right there between smartphones and pagers. We had Nokias. And when you're living the Nokia life, you had changeable faceplates. You could do like camo. Maybe I'm rocking the camo faceplate Monday. And maybe Tuesday it's the solid gold faceplate. All sorts of faceplates. You had, the only game I remember that I cared about was Snake. And that was just using the little arrows to play a little Snake game. You're only talking nights and weekends, like physically talking on the phone. If you call me during the day when I've got free nights and weekends, I'm not answering your call. I'm not responding to your text and paying 10 cents every time you respond to a text. All this unlimited stuff nowadays is not how it was back then. You were calling numbers to check how many minutes you had left. You were texting with the number pads. All those numbers, if you look on those keypads, there's a bunch of letters under each number, and you'd have to click that 3-4 times. Talking old server, maybe you were rocking Singular back then, or Nextel, or Motorola before all these companies went nowhere. And, maybe we're rocking some sweet, sweet ringtones like these. Oh, that's a classic. Oh, yeah. Pick up your phone. You hear that in the movie theater. All right, let's knock that. You'd get those tones of like songs and stuff. There was just you got NES sounding way better than that. Those freaking Nokia tones. So be thankful with the phones you have today. While we're here, we're talking Nokia. Thank you, fake sponsor. Let me rattle off a couple of things that did not exist in 2004 when the Minish cap came out. These things were not around when this awesome Zelda game was out. Twitter, nowhere to be found. Whatever, X, whatever. Twitter started 2007. When Minish cap was out, there was no YouTube at all. Didn't exist. That was started in 2005. The only way we got cat videos back then was from a show called America's Funniest Home Videos. So thank you, Bob Saget. Google Maps wasn't around. They came out in 2005. So we were still printing MapQuest pieces of paper, if that, or just actual maps you would fold out and hope you're reading roads right. There was no Netflix streaming. That didn't start till 2007. But you were still getting your cool red envelope DVDs, if you remember those. As opposed to Blockbuster. If you don't, Blockbuster had the chance to buy Netflix on the cheap, and they laughed at them. But look who's laughing now, Blockbuster. I'm sorry, I miss you, Blockbuster. Also not around, Facebook. It started in 2004. So we're probably rocking that MySpace back then. And also, obviously not around in 2004 was the iPhone. That baby didn't come out until 2007. Excuse me. So thanks again, Nokia, for rocking out them sweet Nokia tunes. Let's talk some movies real quick, and I'll just kind of breeze through these. We had Shrek 2. And again, this was a time when I was 20. So between these movies and shows, a lot of them are what I was watching with my kids, but I still enjoyed them, especially when you got movies like Shrek 2, when they kind of start making them a lot more for adults and kids at the same time, without just being kids movies with adult jokes and kind of vice versa. They're just enjoyable for everybody. So you got Shrek 2, which is right up there with one of those rare lists of better sequels than the original movie. There's not a lot of those where the sequel's better, and they always kind of biff it on the third one. This is coming from a guy whose favorite Star Wars movie is Return of the Jedi, but we've also got The Incredibles. I loved it, still love it. Shark Tale came out. Whatever. Go watch Finding Nemo if you want to watch a good fish movie. Polar Express, that came out. And Terrified Children to this day. It is like nightmare fuel. Maybe some of you enjoy it, but there's still something about CG characters. And that the uncanny valley effect is what it's called, where they're just not quite there, and there's something in your brain. It's almost like sending alarm signals as you're watching these kind of humans in CG. It's like they either need to go cartoony, where our brains can take it, or they try to go too human, and it's like it sets off weird alarms, I think, subconsciously. But also 2004, 2005, the first movie of many to come. Still rocking out movies to this day. Let's hear it.
Hey, settle down. Take it easy. What the scallop? I'm a goofy goober. You're a goofy goober. We're all goofy goobers. Goofy, goofy, goober, goober. Put your toys away. Well, all I gotta say when you tell me not to play, I say no way. No way, no freaking way. I'm a kid.
I hope some of you young kids like that. I hope you're remembering that one. That, my friends, that is the first SpongeBob movie. That is the old, bro Patrick, SpongeBob heading out on the road together. Saw that in the theater with my kids. I've seen it 1,000 times since. So shout out to SpongeBob, as always. We'll blow through some TV shows. And again, these are more shows that my kids kind of watched in the background. But there's also kind of where we start to get into some more adult cartoons as well. We got Teen Titans, we got Danny Phantom, Lilo and Stitch, the series, the one that aired on like Disney. My daughter watched the crap out of that. And it's a good show. All like original voice actors from the movies and stuff. Kim Possible, and then Aqua Teen Hunger Force. So that's not the kid one. But we're really getting into that Adult Swim stuff at night with the adult cartoons. When we're talking toys in 2004, we're not talking toys I played with. Well, I played with my kids' toys, but mostly toys I had to buy. And some of the big ones around this time were the Leapfrog and the Leapster sets. They were like little kind of mini learning games. Some of them were handheld. Some of them they had a watch. Some of them you plugged into the TV. VTech was like another one of them. And always just kind of looked better in practice. My kids never really, they're just going to play Nintendo or whatever else I got. But it was a good try for those games, and all that stuff's still kind of around now, but you pretty much got learning apps if you want to throw those at your kid. But then special shout out to Operation Shrek. When we're dipping into the IP titles of games. In Shrek's case, it was like all the organs were different and gross and all this stuff. But I mean, the concept goes along with like how many different versions of Monopoly are there now? Just thousands. Every single show. I mean, every city, if you can think of it, there is a Monopoly for it. I was just at Cedar Point, and you don't think I didn't see a Cedar Point-opoly or whatever they called it? They had one of those too. Let's shout out to some video games I was definitely playing. You got Halo 2, Half-Life 2, KOTOR. You got San Andreas. Oh, that's Knights of the Old Republic, Star Wars, KOTOR. San Andreas came out that year, but if there was a GTA that I played the most, it was Vice City. It was me and my boy AJ, just hours and hours. Like anytime I hear that frickin' Cars song, I'm just thinking of Vice City. A lot of those other 80s songs. So that was the one I put the most time in for sure. WoW came out. World of Warcraft came out in 2004. I wasn't playing it yet, but I was going to get a taste of you here soon. And then just throw it out there, Mario Party 6. So just where are you in life? We're at number 6 on Mario Party in 2004. So let's get into this game. Let's look at this box art. Let's look at the manual. Let's hear some more music down the road. And just straight talk Legend of Zelda for the next hour.
Now, I know you love video games, and I asked the clerk which is the one every boy wants.
You got me. Oh, yeah.
All right, we're opening it up. We're checking out the Minish cap. Also, I guess spoiler warnings on this entire podcast. It's not a walkthrough. I'm going to leave a lot of stuff vague. I'm going to forget a lot of stuff. But just in case you want to go in knowing nothing, then you should still listen to the podcast because it's cool. And I'll tell you all the things you need to know. So GBA, Game Boy Advance, the thing, again, it runs like a mini Super Nintendo. I wish I would have just put more time into it back in the day. This game and a couple others, I believe the Oracle games and this one were developed by Capcom. So Nintendo was giving out, their IP to other companies. I think some random companies did some of the other games like Spirit Tracks, Phantom Hourglass. I could be wrong, but you can kind of see the differences in like developers when they're making these games. And we will vaguely get into the canon timeline of Zelda, but I kind of break them down kind of per system. It's like the two NES games kind of go together to me. You've only got, your solo Super Nintendo, but then you got your 264 that kind of go together. I mean, all your Game Boy games that's kind of how I break them up as far as like timelines, not actual in-game timelines or anything, just kind of how they fit together, but we'll touch on that in a minute. So the box art looks good. It's the Wind Waker kind of art of Link, and I don't mind any of the art styles. They change them constantly while kind of keeping them the same. And I like it. Shake things up a little bit. You've got your boy Ezlo, kind of replaces your hat, and he's going to kind of be your helper. He's cooler than Navi for sure. So we'll talk Ezlo in a little bit. And other than that, you've got the Four Sword in this game, not the Master Sword. So that's on the logo and the box art as well. We'll go over the manual too. It looks sweet, and they're cool enough to be real vague with the manual, so they're not giving away any stories or twists or anything. They got kind of a real basic kind of opening story we'll go over. And other than that, a few kind of little tidbits here. Again, I talked about how the art style is Wind Waker, and it really is. Just looks like Link to the Past as far as gameplay. But your music, it pulls music from Ocarina of Time, and all your sound effects are Link from Ocarina of Time. You know, all his grunts and rolls and all those kind of things. It is the only main series Zelda game set in Hyrule with no desert zone. So whether or not you like the desert zone, it's got everything else in there. You got your fire and your ice and your water, and really cool like cloud palaces in this game. It's apparently a direct prequel to Four Swords, and again featuring the Four Sword. There's no Master Sword. Early draft logos featured the Master Sword, and they later had to change it to the Four Sword. And to me, it really just feels like the Link to the Past sequel that I always wanted. And I don't even mean in-game. It's got nothing to do with Link to the Past as far as like the story and stuff, but I just wanted that. I wanted that overworld. It's how I like my Zelda games. I like, and I'll go over this again later, but I like the dungeon. You get your weapon. You need that weapon to finish the dungeon. You need that weapon you got to defeat the boss. You leave, the parts of the world open up, things that you saw. I love how you can explore the game earlier and just see things on cliffs or see, your bomb walls or all these things that you know you're going to come back to at some point. And it's like, depending on whether or not you're trying to be a completionist and trying to remember all these things, it's more, it's more fun to me to just kind of explore and kind of go as you go. So that's why this was like, it felt like a Super Nintendo sequel, and it looks way better than Link to the Past visually. So where does this fit into the Zelda timeline? I don't know why they decided to try and smush together where these timelines fit. There's probably videos that break this down a lot more, but you've got your main timeline of creation, Skyward Sword to Minish Cap to Four Swords to Ocarina, and then it splits off depending on whether the hero is defeated or the hero is triumphant. And then if the hero is triumphant, it splits off again into the child timeline or the adult timeline. And it's real confusing. And I think everybody agrees it's kind of dumb. I don't know why. I guess maybe it's fun to try to piece all those together and say this is what happens when. But I mean, it's just any other concept. It's like Mario. We don't need a timeline of Mario and his games and what he's doing with Bowser. I mean, it's as the games got older and the systems got better, there's a lot more story and character development. But even N64 and down, we're still in this phase of good guy beat bad guy, save princess if that's the case. In 64 at least, we start to break away from that when you find Zelda and other places where she's not the damsel in distress. But there's no way I'm going to break down because I don't understand the traditions and history of Hyrule. But we'll get into at least this game. I like to kind of look at them all as kind of self-contained. So we'll just talk Minish Cap. I'll just breeze through the story the manual gives you real quick, and we'll get into some controls. So this manual starts out with the Legend of the Pickery. Pickery. I'm not sure, but in my head it's Pickery. So it says, long, long ago, evil spirits descended on the land of Hyrule. Just when it seemed that the world was to be cast into the darkest of shadows, the tiny Pickery appeared from the skies and bestowed on a courageous human a shining golden light and a single sword. This bravest of men used his wisdom and courage, his golden light and his sword to fight off demons and restore peace to the world. The people were so grateful for the Pickery's help that they held an annual celebration in their honor. The tradition of the Pickery Festival continued, but over the generations, the Pickery themselves passed into legend. The legend of the Pickery tells of a mystic doorway that opens just once every 100 years. When the door is opened, the Pickery can cross from their world into Hyrule. This year is that year in 100, and the festival is unusually grand. Hyrule Castle is hosting a tournament of sword fighting skill, recalling the great battles of legend. This year's champion is a man by the name of Vadi. He has won the tournament with an almost magical ease, and all of Hyrule is abuzz with rumors about this shadowy figure. Who is this Vadi, they ask? What has brought him to Hyrule? Question mark. So that's all you get out of the manual, and that's a good way to go. So yeah, no Master Sword, no Ganon in this game. The way they talk about some past hero, I guess they're talking about Skyward Sword Link, maybe, as far as the Picori helping him and now helping. Anyway, we'll get into it. Controls here, if you don't know the Game Boy Advance, you got your basic D-pad. You got A and B, but in this case we got L and R as well, and your start and select. So as far as what you do in the game, the control pad will move, obviously. Your A and B you assign items to, as well as like speaking to people. Your R button's kind of like an action button. Mainly it's set to like roll, but it'll do things like speak or open chests if you've got like bombs equipped and you're not facing the right way and you want to talk to someone and you waste a bomb on them or something. But you've got R, you've got start, your menu, and that just brings up your item subscreen, your stats, and your map. And you can kind of zoom in on your map a little bit. And then select, once you get Ezlo, he'll give you some advice if you're stuck. Sometimes, but sometimes he'll just give you advice anyway that seems quite obvious. But so that's your controls. It's a lot of assigning things to buttons A and B. A lot of pausing. Feels like Mega Man a lot there, pausing and switching powers constantly. But you do get some sweet classic items in this game. We're talking bombs, boomerang, bow and arrow. We love the classics. And then, of course, it's going to throw some fun new mechanics in the mix. In this game, we got things like the mole mitts and the gust jar. Some things that have never come back around, but change the way you can play this game a lot. And like in most traditional games, Link can't jump, at least not without an item. So they come up with kind of other mechanics to make your way around that. They have like puff shrooms in this game to get you across distances. The same way like how they worked around with Ocarina of Time as far as jump button. You just run to a ledge and jump if it's possible. So we got that going for us. And of course, we've got some sweet Zelda music. They've got Ocarina of Time tunes in here. They have remixed Link to the Past tunes. They've got remixed OG Zelda tunes. So I'm going to play for you Dark Hyrule Castle. It is a remix of Hyrule Castle from Link to the Past. And then we're going to get into a lot of gameplay. So let's do it. It's just great, isn't it? You recognize that? Oh, just immersive music. And of course, Zelda games are known for these music just being awesome. So we're talking, let's talk characters. Excuse me. You've got Link, obviously. They play him in the best way possible by not making him like a speaking character. It really gives you the opportunity to be the hero. Maybe you're responding in your head when you're talking to characters in game. But these games have always been great at making you the hero, making you feel like you're making these important choices. You're saving the day. So we've got Link, the hero. We've got Ezlo, a new character. Link will meet him pretty early in the game, and he kind of becomes his hat, and from there does some other things. I won't spoil his kind of backstory, but he's there to help you. You've got Princess Zelda, of course, and I am going to talk about the gameplay there. She's pretty non-existent in the game because she's a statue. So, and other than that, you got Vadi, this mysterious figure. elf looking, same size as Link. He's not kind of big and imposing when you first see him in the game. But we'll get into Vadi later. And other than that, you've got some various races that you're going to recognize. Some of them from Ocarina of Time. I thought that was really cool. Again, no Ganon. And this game has, I guess, 6 official dungeons. I do consider some of the in-between of the dungeons almost like mini dungeons themselves. And if that was the case, then you could say there's just like 11 sections of the games where you're, doing these puzzles in order to progress. But I kind of read you the story there, at least the beginning. And in this case, with the Picori Festival coming, Zelda invites Link to go to the festival. And they go and they meet this winner, Vadi. And, he goes to collect his winnings. And turns out he's a bad guy. And, the Picari, they show him as being a winner. He gets to, I think, see, their sword or something. And he takes it and, I don't know, shatters it or something, but he's a bad guy. He turns Zelda into a statue and then disappears. You have to go, as far as your mission in the game, collect 4 elemental shards, pieces, I don't even remember, essences, whatever they call them. It's your basic, you got to get 3 penance. You got to get 7 sages, whatever it is. In this case, you're collecting 4 elementals to reforge the 4 sword. And go so you can take on Vadi. Again, it doesn't get, no real big deep story here, but the game is kind of, I guess, rather short as far as Zelda games go, but they use that Minish feature, that kind of shrinking feature, I think, to almost just double the game. So again, let's talk gameplay. It's the gameplay I love. It's your dungeon, your item, your boss, your overworld, rinse and repeat. And if you don't have fun doing that, then Zelda's just not the game for you. Some Zelda games are better than others, but I love the exploring. I love talking to. It's I go into town, I got to talk to every single person. So it's got a lot of that. And as with every other Zelda game, you're going to make your name your character. If you want to be weird or gross or funny, then that's up to you. But you name your character. We'll go with Link. Of course, I name all my characters Scuba. But just like every Zelda game, you start out with Link sleeping. I don't know if that's every game, but it sure feels like Link just starts out in bed. So you go to the festival, you get a shield. Zelda, wins you one or buys you one. So you get a shield right off the bat. You're talking to villagers. It makes the game feel alive. Even just walking around the festival and stuff at the beginning. So then Vadi shows up, turns Zelda to stone. The king gives you a sword, and off you go to go collect 4 elements, like Captain Planet style. We need earth, wind, water, fire, and heart. No, there's no heart. So your first, you do your exploring thing. There's a couple of other differences in this game, or at least some kind of new things. There's kinstones. We'll go over those in a little bit. But it's got your basic. You're gonna get bags, wallets, quivers. So you're gonna get a bomb bag. All these things upgradable, just like any other games. Your boomerang you'll get, that's upgradable at some point. I believe through a fairy fountain, those kind of things you may have experienced before. This game has bottles. Remember those, empty bottles to collect things. You got your pieces of heart, which is a staple of the Zelda games. And this game has mysterious shells as kind of a form of currency. You will turn those in for rewards, or I believe figurines or figures you collect in the game. And then, of course, you got your rupees. So all things you're going to collect as you're fighting enemies and exploring the world. So we'll kind of breeze through this. Your first kind of dungeon is going to be Deepwood Shrine. And, so the biggest mechanic in this game that makes it the Minish cap and makes it different is this shrinking feature. So the Picori, or Minish as they're called, are these tiny little creatures. So now that it's this 100-year festival or whatever it is, only kids can see these tiny things, and Link, being a kid, is able to see these tiny little Minish guys. And then eventually it gets Ezlo, and then eventually you find these kind of shrinking spots where you can grow or shrink. And that what makes me love this game. I think I even talked about it last week, and like Chip and Dale, as far as I love playing as something tiny in these bigger worlds and like micro machines like I've talked about. And so I love shrinking in this game and seeing the detail they put into like even just a leaf when you're tiny. A lot of the artwork is like insane. Like the game doesn't deserve, it does because it's a Zelda game. It's like it shouldn't look this good. Like they didn't have to put a lot of these details into this game, graphics wise. It doesn't affect gameplay and stuff, but it just looks great. So I'm going to shout out a couple of those when I get to them. So the shrinking feature, it shows you kind of a tiny little Link guy until you kind of go into an area, and then it kind of zooms back to where you're normal, but now everything else is big. So at some point you're walking on top of like books on a bookshelf, and going across the rafters of like an attic of a house, and these kind of things, talking to all these Minish everywhere. So Deepwood Shrine, your first dungeon, is one of the dungeons where you go Minish for the fight, or for the dungeon itself. I think there might be one other one. It's hard to say because Link looks the same as far as his, avatar or whatever. It's just depending on what the environment looks like. Like the first dungeon, Deepwood Shrine, you end up kind of rotating this barrel, so you're tiny and kind of inside this barrel, but then the barrel looks huge because just how the game's designed. So the item you get at Deepwood Shrine is the Gust Jar. That one I'm not sure if it's been around anywhere else. This is one of the unique ones, and it's just kind of like a vase, but you like suck up things, so it'll like put out fire, it'll suck weapons off of enemies so that you then can defeat them, it'll suck up enemies that you can then shoot, it'll suck up rocks, so it like suctions to you, and then you can do things with these items. So that's really cool. And again, you're in tiny, and then it's your same dungeon stuff when you're in these dungeons. You're going to find small keys, you're going to find the big key or the master key, you're going to find a compass, you're going to find a map, and then the map in this case will show you chests and things you haven't got to in your same kind of dark rooms you haven't been to yet, the light rooms you have. So it's got all those on your normal dungeon stuff. And then the boss of Deepwood Shrine is a big green choo-choo. So it does this like Yoshi's Island thing where some of the bosses, because you're a Minish, the boss is just a normal guy you would fight in the field, a choo-choo, but because you're a Minish, the choo-choo's huge. And of course, since you got the Gust Jar in the Deepwood Shrine, you have to figure out how this Gust Jar is going to help me defeat this boss, because that is just how Zelda works, and don't stop, because I love it. So you beat Deepwood Shrine, you get the Earth element, and then you start the fun stuff, because to me, I love beating a dungeon and finding all these other things that are open now, people you can talk to, areas of the map that are open. We'll talk a little bit about kinstones. So it's like another collecting thing, and it's like a half of a coin with like a puzzle shape. And then so you'll find NPCs. There are, I believe, over 100 kinstone combinations. So you'll find certain NPCs, and the game will explain kind of how it works better than I am. But the point being, it just adds more to the game as you collect kinstone pieces. Then you go up to someone that shows that they want to match a kinstone piece, and then you get to go through, see if you have the piece that matches, and if they do go together, you have various things that can happen. Sometimes it's just like a chest with rupees appears. Sometimes it'll open up a whole area of the map. Sometimes it'll help with heart pieces, and it'll kind of show you, something's going to open up in the world. It shows you that, and then it'll kind of mark it on your map so you can make your way there. And it's just tons of different stuff. And maybe some of it's dumb and worthless. Maybe some of it's better than others. But it's whether or not you enjoy those kind of things. So it adds combining kinstones to your to-do list. So, I guess kinstones are what they are because they're like not really in any other Zelda games. So maybe they weren't that popular. So again, after the dungeon, get explore into Hyrule, talk to villagers, like enjoy the immersion of it, because you are the hero. That's why Link doesn't talk. He's just like the perfect protagonist. So the way Minish works like it makes the most out of the map because it is GBA, so it's a smaller game. You got a smaller map, but by being Minish, like Hyrule Village, for example, essentially turns into a whole nother zone when you're tiny because now you can get into these areas of the houses. The game does a good job of showing you where you'll be mini, where there's like little mini entrances. So again, when you're walking by and you can't do it yet, but you're like, someday I'm going to get into the back of that house, or you're climbing into chimneys, you're jumping through little mouse hole, climbing through little mouse holes in the walls and all these kind of things. So I really enjoy being Minish. And again, the same kind of way that like Dark World and these kind of things take your Hyrule map, keep it almost the same, but change kind of everything at the same time. So it's how they just kind of get the most out of their game. So if we're talking Dungeon 2, that's a mountain level. That's Mount Krenel. And that's going to work like all your mountain levels in all these Zelda games. You're going to have fallen rocks. You're going to have spider guys jumping and you can't tell where they're jumping at. You're going to have typical Link climbing up things, avoiding boulders. And again, just on your way, like this, getting to Mount Krenel itself is almost, again, like a little mini dungeon. So you're finding kinstone pieces along the way. You're finding heart pieces. And then another sweet thing about this game is the enemies don't respawn, like unless you exit kind of the whole area. And that's good because this game does have like a lot of backtracking. So at least it's got that going for you. So if you finally make it through the path to get to Mount Krenel, along the way you'll find the grip ring. And that kind of allows you to climb. It's up to the game, the developers, whether or not you have that from the get-go. In this case, like you can like pick up like pots and boulders kind of right off the bat. So there's no like heavy glove you need to lift things. So it's just depending on how they want to develop the game and what kind of roadblocks they put up to your abilities. Same way with like jumping. In this case, this game does have Rock's Cape. Was it called Rock's Feather in Link's Awakening? That just straight up gives you a jump button. So you do get that later in the game. But let me shout out some of the art real quick in this game. It's got sweet shadows of the clouds in the overworld. And this is all stuff that I must notice that's just not in Link to the Past because I play that so much. That just made it so noticeable in this game. So you got tons of the way the shadows work in general, just tons of shadows everywhere that don't need to be there, but they just make it almost 3D. Tiny Link looks great because he's just like 7 bits or something when he's tiny and you're on your regular map, but he's still ability to weave in and out of things. And it's cool when you become tiny and you're still on the normal map before you like go in somewhere when you're tiny. It's like you can't walk over water now. You can't, go over this. You can't even run through like deeper grass. That becomes a roadblock when you're a Minish. So when you go Minish, it changes the map in a way that you can't walk in places you could before, but then you can squeeze in between tiny places where normal sized Link can't. But back to the art, again, the large background objects. I just like it's like they make the lines bigger, like the outlines bigger, like the leaves I was saying look crazy, like way better than they need to. There's a point in this game where you're tiny and it's raining, and so the raindrops are like giant boulders that are killing you, like very much like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. I've noticed that when Link is pushing the boulders, they roll, so you're not just sliding a rock, it visually rolls the boulder around. And then the bomb animation is sweet. Like it does this swirly puff of smoke, like Wind Waker style. And it's like, again, I don't know how they packed it into this little machine, but the art looks great. The fog looks great. There's fog spots in this game. So you made it through Mount Krenel. We'll keep going to the second dungeon, and that is the Cave of Flames. And this is a pretty straightforward Zelda dungeon. It's got, along the way you can upgrade things like your bomb bag. You can get your 30 bomb bag on the way. And in this Cave of Flames, you're going to find another new item called the Cane of Tupac. No, it's the Cane of Pocky, I think. And that's a weird one. It flips things over. But but it like shoots out like a projectile that'll do it. So I found it pretty handy for some enemies. It'll kind of knock them around, flip them over. So it'll like just knock over pots and smash them. And there's a few random things where you have to like flip over like a mine cart. You flip over like a Minish pot to jump into at some point in the game. But then, of course, you're going to need the Ocarina of Time itself to defeat the boss in some way. And that boss is Glee Rock. He's like a giant turtle shell type thing, long snake neck type thing. He's like sitting in a bed of lava. And I like this boss fight because it's a little tough at the end. There's a lot of fire on the ground. And when Link hits it, he does the Mario 64, just starts running like crazy. So you've got him, and then, in this case, you need to like flip over his turtle shell with the Packy, Kena Packy, and then run up, whack him with your sword, rinse and repeat, lava, fire, etc. So beat him up and get yourself the fire elemental. And then at this point, you're going to head for the Fortress of Winds. You're going to stop by the Elemental Sanctuary, unload your first two elementals. So it's kind of a whole, kind of that area, temple-like. The point being to reforge the Picori blade with the four elements. So you've got two. At this point, you get a little bit of Ezlo backstory with Vadi. They're kind of related, or their stories kind of intertwine, but I'll leave that for you guys if you want to check it out. And then I believe this is where you get the Pegasus boots. Those are classic too. That's your kind of charge dash. Classic right up there with your spin attack. These are all acquired through Tiger Scrolls. There's like a training house in Hyrule Village, and he'll kind of teach you these new moves at the right time. He'll tell you when he doesn't have anything to train you. You'll have to do some more progression stuff to get to the point where you learn your new things, but you'll get your spin attack, you'll get the Pegasus boots, let you do the dash, but then you'll learn how to do like your spin attack while moving. I think this has like the original Zelda, like shoots a sword out move at some point. It's definitely got the downward thrust. When you get Rock's Cape, you can then jump and do your downward thrust Smash Brothers style. I guess Zelda 2 is where that really originated. So you get the Pegasus boots, and at this point, there's just tons of stuff to do in Hyrule Village. If you haven't got your boomerang yet, get that. You can get your boomerang early if you want to grind out 300 rupees, because I did, because I love the boomerang. So you get your boomerang, and again, it's just the beauty of the rinse and repeat. It makes upgrading things like fun for me. A couple more items, the mole mitt, the ocarina. You got your bow earlier. You're fighting upgraded enemies that are recognizable from like Nintendo and Super Nintendo. I've already mentioned the music is recognizable. And you've got these new mechanics that we'll kind of go over as we come to them, with things like the mitts I mentioned. There's a kind of annoying mechanic, but challenging as far as cloning Link, kind of four-sword style, using Link, multiple clone Links moving in the right position to kind of defeat some things. There are the big hand enemies that I hate in this game. They're like fluorescent colors and huge, the ones that'll grab you and take you back to the beginning. And it's lame. Those guys, there's a lot of them. But as far as like Fortress of Winds, there's no element in Fortress of Winds. Well, your princess is in another castle, Link. It turns out the race, the Wind Tribe, have moved elsewhere. You're going to have to look for that wind element another time. But the boss in that dungeon is sweet. I think his name's Mazel. He is like a big mechanical kind of looking thing. But the cool thing about it is that you go Minish during the fight. So it's like you stun him and you go Minish and you go inside this robotic type thing. And then you like start cutting, whacking out, whatever you want to call them. It's like stone top pillars in the game, but it could be parts of his brain or whatever it is. You're like disabling him, and then you go out, grow again, knock him down, shrink, go in. So it's a really cool Minish mechanic. But again, no element yet. So I mentioned the Wind Tribe. There are a lot of like recognizable races in this game. Some from Ocarina. You've got your Deku, you know those guys, little shrubbery guys. Block them with the shield. They shoot nuts at you. So you got your Deco, you got various kinds of pickery. You've got forest, mountain. There's some in Hyrule Town. And they all kind of act different depending on what kind of part they're from. Like the mountain pickery are just hard workers. Your Hyrule, the town pickery are just interested in the humans and these kind of things. Also in this level, I love it, you've got Gorons, made of living stone, resistant to heat, just your big rock buddies. You've also got the Hylians, your humanoids, elf ears, pointed, just your normal kind of people. And then the Wind Tribe, you'll find them up in the clouds somewhere as you keep exploring this game. So the next dungeon after Fortress of Winds, again, you don't have your wind element, is the Temple of Droplets. That is a ice level, a water level. It's where you're going to get your water element. And again, before that, there's so much shrinking to do in Hyrule Town. That's when you really want to go there. I think that's when it opens up a lot of the Minish stuff before Temple of Droplets. But when you're there, again, it's an ice temple. You'll be doing some swimming. You'll be sliding around on ice. You got flippers, I think. And then the item, as is fashion for an ice-type level, is going to be a fire-type weapon of some kind. You get the fire lantern in this dungeon. And, of course, you're going to have to use that to beat the boss, who is a giant Octorok. So, again, another giant normal, or a normal enemy that's giant now that you're fighting. And then it's kind of cool because at least they still kind of throw some things in the mix on this temple. It's like you go in and I think you get the boss, the master key, just right off the bat. It's just sitting there. And of course you can't get to the boss for like till you finish the dungeon, but it's still cool just to kind of mix things up like that. And again, I'm just going to emphasize how much I like the concept of getting that item and figuring out how to beat the boss with it. It's not quite like Mega Man, where Mega Man is you're going into a level and with existing power-ups or weapons, trying to figure it out from there. It's usually what you're getting in the dungeon, you're going to need to beat that boss. So you beat him, you do get the water element, and then you head to some sweet parts of the game that, like, I always love haunted type area. So there's like the haunted forest and the haunted royal crypts. You're going to run into your old boy Dampy, the grave worker. So it's really cool to see him in the game. And again, this was me playing this 2-3 years ago, having played Link to the Past and Ocarina of Time about 1,000 times. Seeing all these characters, or seeing Dampy in his little 2D and all these little like 2D Gorons and stuff. But again, this is where you can get more upgrades to wallets, your wallet, your quiver, your bags. You keep collecting those heart pieces. There's tons of side quests in Hyrule Town. It's just however much you want to do it. And then just opening up the area with the Minish ability. A lot of new areas start to become accessible. There's like a house building side quest if you want to become a realtor for a little bit. But then other than that, it's time to head up to the clouds. So I mentioned it earlier, the shells, the mysterious shells you collect are like a currency, and you will need those to collect figures. And, I mean, it's kind of weird, figurines, if you like this kind of system. The only lame part about it is that you need to get, I think, all the figurines to get a heart piece. So if you're going for 100%, it can be annoying, but it's not like you ever need all your heart rows to beat these games. But you play kind of like a lottery, and depending on how many figurines you've already collected, it's like a percentage. Like at first, if you trade him one shell, you're going to get like a 99% chance of getting a new figurine. So as you collect those figurines, the numbers change, where it might take 5 shells to get you up to 90%, or then eventually 5 shells only gives you a 30% chance at a new one. You up it to 10, and now you get a 60% chance. And this is all just to collect figurines. The process itself is pretty annoying because it takes so long. You have to select it each time. You can't do 5 figurines at 5 shells a piece, hit send. Like, it's none of that. It's very tedious. So do it as you're playing the game. Collect your figurines as you're playing, and also if you get near your max on mysterious shells, which you will, you don't want to just sit there at max. You want to get those figurines if you're going for some sort of 100%. But just another thing they added to the mix. I feel like the shells were in Link's Awakening as well, so those have come and gone. But as far as the figurine lottery, I haven't seen that kind of come back. But that's there. So anyway, we're going to head up to the clouds. So we did the First Wind dungeon, and now we're doing the Palace of Winds. And this one's really cool because it's all just in the sky. So it does a good job of 3D things up top, things down low, like layered wise. It's all sky underneath, or like ocean, and you see land down there, but then it's got clouds over top of you, and of course the shadows. So it's a really, really good looking dungeon. You finally get yourself the Rocks Cape, so you're going to be jumping around in this dungeon. It's pretty linear. It kind of has to be, just kind of the way it's designed, but still a fun dungeon to me. Again, the clouds and the land underneath you. There's parts where, you're on the kind of dirt path type stuff that starts to go away. So you need to like run across certain areas. There's parts of this level that has a fan mechanic where there's just fans blowing, and you may need to jump across using the fan, certain things like that. There's also oddly some Lakitu. What is the proper way to pronounce those? It's weird to just read things forever. I think I've always just had them as like Lakitu in my head. But you got some turtles and some clouds up there, like straight out of Mario game. Not the first kind of mix and match between these. Is it Link's Awakening has like Goombas and stuff on the 2D parts. So mixing it up there. And there's lots of clone mechanics in this one. As far as cloning Link and getting him to do what you want. But man, where this really shines is the boss fight. What's his name? Guy Yorgs. But he's a giant manta ray. And the fight it's one of those fights like you're on a giant manta, it's flying through the sky, you're fighting it and trying to defeat it. As it's flying around, you jump to other mantas because they start attacking. You're trying to like take out the eyes of the manta rays you're riding on, while jumping between the blue and the red one, lining up your clones to hit all the eyeballs in the right time. It just feels really hectic. I think like one of my favorite Smash Brother levels is the F-Zero one, where you're like fighting on the cars as they're racing. So it's like, I love that kind of stuff. So you actually get your wind element this time. So, I mean, it's up to you, when you want to finish all your side quests before you go combine those elements. Because once you do, things are going to get dark. You're going to the dark side of Hyrule. It's great puzzles, and you already heard that remixed Link to the Past theme of Hyrule Castle. So, I won't get too much into the body fights. We went over Tiger Scrolls. You're going to want to stock up them heart pieces, them kinstones. You got your down thrust now. Again, that's going to be your cape and your sword with your downward thrust. Another side kind of quest, you can go visit some Gorons, get yourself a mirror shield. It's cool. It's you meet like a giant Goron. I forget his name, but he'll eat your shield and then spit out a mirror shield or something like that. And again, we went over the figurines with seashells. Other than that, you're going to beat up Vadi. The game ends pretty quick after you do beat Vadi. Your typical Zelda's okay, and Zelda thanks you. I mean, it's cool. He's got 3 phases. So it's like your first 2 phases you fight, and go ahead and surprise yourself if you make it to this game. I won't even describe the Vadi fights. But at one point, it's like you think it's done. You free Zelda, and then it's like you're into, round 3 of the Vadi fight. And they kind of do that in all the games, the Zelda games. Even, like Ocarina of Time, you fight in various forms of Ganon, and then even part of the fight is like escaping at the end. Like that. I like them but they tense me up like crazy. Anytime a fight ends and you have to escape something in a certain time limit, I think Metroid's pretty famous for doing that kind of stuff and just giving me anxiety. But other than that, beat Vadi, and you just beat the Minish Cap. We're going to go over some comments. We're going to go over some awards. Let's get into it.
Hey, listen!
Aren't you a little old for video games?
That man is playing Galaga. Thought we wouldn't notice, but we did.
Let's do all the things that you want to do.
Throw me a frickin' bone here. I'm the boss. Need the info.
I've lived in mortal terror that this would happen.
Get on with the ceremony.
All right, let's get into some comments. You didn't think I could go through a whole Zelda episode without throwing some Navi out there, right?
Hey, listen!
Yeah, she's all right. Again, still better than that owl. So let's get into some comments here. We got Dave saying, after finishing A Link to the Past, I didn't think I would be able to find another Zelda game that would live up to that one. It took every element of the original game and expanded upon it in every imaginable way. Needless to say, it was one of those moments I've never been so happy to be wrong. The Minish Cap is the epitome of a great sequel, or prequel if you like, that completely obliterates A Link to the Past in every respect. It's a huge game with lots to offer, lots of fun and challenging obstacles, fun and creative graphics, and best of all, it retains its roots with the Rescue Princess Zelda story, while adding many new elements to make the story even more engaging than before. I particularly love the use of Link's hat, aka Ezlo. Still one of the best games I've played in my life. High praise there for Minish Cap. I'm not sure. You're kind of trash talking Link to the Past. I'm not sure how much I can let that swing. That's my nostalgia buttons just taking over there, because I love Link to the Past so much. But again, a lot of people feel I found some rough comments on Minish Cap too, but we're going to send some love. Good comment, Dave. Let's hear from Way J. Says, this is my first 2D Zelda game and my second overall after Breath of the Wild. So I'm going to stop right there. That's why I pulled this. His first 2D Zelda game is Minish Cap, and that's the second game he ever played after Breath of the Wild. Let's continue. This game was a blast, man. The shrinking mechanic is fun and allows for creative puzzles all throughout the game. The dungeons are all pretty fun, with the fourth one being the only real low point with ice physics and an absolutely useless and uninteresting item. Nonetheless, I'd say the main positives are a lighthearted and fun story, just overall stupendous combat and enemy design, great puzzles, pretty good bosses, and a stupendous overworld teeming with secrets and even more puzzles. Some criticisms I have are that a lot of items are pretty worthless outside of their dungeons, some confusion of where to go next, and fighting Dark Nuts is pretty terrible. Overall, great game though, and I'd probably give it an 8.5 out of 10. Fighting the Dark Nuts, those are like the big armored soldiers. You do got to bust out your shield for that. Like a shield, it's almost like real sword fighting. Sword and shield, spin attacks. Those guys are pretty tough. They're blocking a lot. So bust your shield out for those guys. Items being worthless outside of their dungeons. Yeah, pretty much. The game isn't super big beyond a few things you can do after each dungeon with your new item. If that. I think he was talking about whatever the flame item was as far as being pretty useless. Rock's Cape is going to be pretty useful. But again, there's probably only 2 or 3 spots in the main world map that allows you to access a secret after acquiring that item. But then people might think that's kind of useless because you just get a kinstone. So I guess it depends on if you like those kind of things as well. Let's hear next from No. He says, I can't give it a 7 out of 10, so it'll be 3 stars. Good game overall. Challenging, which is good. Some parts of dungeons are unnecessarily difficult as they are just too precise. You often get lost in the overworld because Ezlo is not as useful as he could be. The game should have been released with more heart drops, especially for the Wind Palace. Have fairies around at all times, as even though this game is fun and has good standard Zelda puzzles, it does not manage difficulty versus challenge well. And so here we go with the differences. I've seen so many comments talking about how this game is too easy. They give you too many hearts, and you've got other people saying they should have fairies around at all times. The more heart drops he wants, those kind of things. So maybe depending on your age, depending on, again, how much you enjoy these games, and whether things are like difficult versus tedious are kind of two different things. So there's a lot of tedium to Zelda, but it's just whether or not it's fun for you as you're doing it. Next comment here from Emily. She says, honestly, I've never played this game. Okay. But the close quarters and inability to shield properly on the Switch made this game almost unbearable. I felt like I played a different game than others. I rarely ever had hearts pop up and enemies were hitting me constantly. The hit range was abysmal. Things I should have hit, I didn't. I could literally spin attack in a patch of grass and entirely miss the square directly in front of me. It felt extremely tedious the entire time playing and not the enjoyable kind. I've played many games that were tedious and more fun than this one, i.e. Death's Door or Hollow Knight. I found myself having to rewind on Switch so often because hitboxes were just not connecting properly. The story is alright. I like the idea and linear as it is, but it's very disappointing. There has to be a next continuation of the Minish timeline. The game feels very one and done, which is pretty disappointing for a Zelda game. So a couple of things there. You can't knock points on a Zelda game because it didn't get a sequel. You can knock the sequel for not being as good as you thought, but it's like they made this game, a one and done, but a great one and done. So I'll argue that one. And the fact that you're bringing up Death's Door and Hollow Knight makes me think maybe you're younger. It's hard. Again, just because this game came out on the Switch online recently, it's still a 20-year-old game. So things were just different back then. But it's weird how many people... Biggest complaint I can find about this game is that it's too easy and too short. So I did manage to find these comments saying the opposite, so we can hash it out a little bit. Got something from Zoe here. Says the combat is too easy and the story progression is marred by arbitrarily esoteric puzzle design. See, I just want to throw this comment right into the garbage. Listen to this frickin' sipping your glass of wine. Again, the combat is too easy and the story progression is marred by arbitrarily esoteric puzzle design. The cobbler and the librarian quests are both infuriating in their random active times and how you solve them. Additionally, the kinship stones being relegated to entirely optional moments, except for when they are story moments, is also poorly executed. So, good job, you got your fancy comment out there on the internet. I'm not even sure what you're trying to say. Esoteric puzzle design. Okay. Last comment from Ryan says, wonderful mechanics, lovely art, second best in the series to Link to the Past, really expands on the top-down style of Zelda.
Shut up and take my money!
That's all he's got to say, and he's right. So we're going to end it there. And we're going to get into some awards. Award number 1 is the Do a Barrel Roll Award. That's going to be for my favorite move or mechanic. There's a lot in here. A lot of moves, a lot of items. I want to shout out, I was going to do a best item award. It would have went to the boomerang. That's just always been my favorite item, even in Ocarina of Time. I can handle Z targeting. I got you. You got to get those bats with the boomerang. But as far as move or mechanic, items aside, my favorite move in a Zelda game, including Link to the Past, is the sword dash. I love rocking them Pegasus boots. I love in Link to the Past when you get it and you like knock the book off the shelf. I don't know why that sticks with me. It's just one of those fun discoveries. Award number 2, the Doki Doki Panic Award. That's going to the best sequel improvement. I put sequel in question mark because it's sequel. I'm just saying the best game improvement. And even then where this falls system to system, because it's not 3D, I'm going to take kind of the 64 out of it, and let's just say best improvement from Super Nintendo to GBA, from Link to the Past to the Minish Cap, is 1000% the graphics. It's so gorgeous. It's like I prefer this style to the remake of Link's Awakening. That one's really good and smooth and 3D and looks like you're playing little clay Link and stuff. But man, give me that bright, sparkly, 16-bit. It's like, it reminds me even like Sea of Stars, which may be like my favorite modern RPG. It looks like that. It just looks great. The attention to detail, again, and just shadows and clouds are just winning this award. And again, just a lot of the Wind Waker art they're bringing over with a lot of the NPCs and stuff. So I really enjoyed it. It blew my mind. And I'm like 40 plus years old of gaming, and this game blew my mind. Award number 3, Sonic Can't Swim Award. Ugh, that's the worst part of gameplay, because ain't nothing worse than underwater Sonic levels. In this case, just like Mega Man, there's going to be lots of pausing, and to me, the worst part of gameplay is item switching. Oh, you get a clap because you're terrible. Mainly because it sucks. You switch your sword is in different places. A lot of times I would pause it, move to the item I wanted, and just unpause it without actually hitting a button. Tons of times I'm wasting bombs because I'm hitting the wrong thing. Nothing terrible. I'm just going to, I got to try and critique this game somewhat, or I'm just going to gush about it all freaking day. So let's get into some ratings. We got our 4 categories: gameplay, visuals, music and sound, and awesomeness. And we're going to talk gameplay, again, the most important one, and I'm trying to critique a little bit. You're going to get a 7 out of 10 on gameplay from me, based on your items and the pausing, based on the kinstones being tedious, the seashells being pointless. There's a few progression issues where it almost opens up a part of a level, or opens up a piece of progression, but it's like you may not have the item to finish that progression, but you don't know till you get halfway through the progression, whereas if it just didn't open that up but maybe that's all part of it too. Some of it seemed like, it's hard I assume it's hard to make games like this and then have years and tens of thousands of people play it to then get this kind of general opinion, especially when you can't go back and patch things. So you're getting a 7 out of 10. Visuals, you're just a hair away from 10. You've already heard me talk about it. I can't say how amazing these are for this little system. It's getting a 9.5 on visuals. Music and sound, you already heard me gush. I love it. I had to pick 2 tracks to play for this episode, and that was tough. Go listen to all those tracks. Specifically, I should have pulled it. Now I regret it. The Ice Palace has really sweet music. Just makes you feel like you're in an ancient Minish temple or whatever it was. So you're 9 out of 10 music, sound, awesomeness. You're getting a 9 out of 10. Play this game. How did this sneak by me? I played every single one. I played the Oracles. I played Link's Awakening. I played the 64 ones. GameCube was where I started to lose. That was just because I was busy being a parent. But it's like, man, I would have been playing this over and over again back then. So, total all those up, this game's getting a 9 out of 10. But does it rule? It rules.
Hey, listen!
Listen to Navi when she tells you that this game rules. All right. You just listened to me for, an hour talk about this game, about my love for Zelda, so it definitely rules. I picked this one just so I could kind of dip my toes into The Legend of Zelda. I love to talk about Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask and Link to the Past and all these other ones eventually. Even I love the old NES ones. Zelda 2 is tough, but I love that game too for all its weirdness. So we'll quit talking Zelda, but next week I want to talk about Mario again. So I think we're gonna go Doki Doki Panic on next week's episode. We're gonna talk Super Mario Brothers 2, NES. Get your Peach floating across the screen. You got Luigi fluttering his legs, and for some reason Toad can pick stuff up really fast. So we're going to talk about those. I look forward to it. I know I've told you I've been into this NES platforming kind of thing, so I'm ready to get right back into it. And other than that, we're going to get out of here. Thanks again for listening. This has been a rambly one, as always, but I appreciate you listening. I appreciate the support. One more time, hit me up at thatgamerules@gmail.com, thatgamerules.com, blah, 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 Facebook, blah, blah, YouTube, eventually Twitch. I'm trying, but man, I'm busy, but I'm going to keep going. We're going to keep at it. Thanks, everyone. I'll see you on the next one. Oh, guess what you'll recognize my end show music. Let's do it.